The post-secondary Bildungsroman is a rarely visited literary genre that remains highly relevant to me, even 5 years out from my graduation from the college experience and firmly among the doldrums of the real world. I believe not enough has been written about an educated person's early 20s, an age fraught with self-doubt, uncertainty, and fear. Particularly in our modern moment where most Americans are expected to pursue college aspirations when the success versus debt proposition is more intimidating than ever, the stakes never greater. It is within such a quandary that we find our cat protagonist May in Night in the Woods, a thoroughly indie title that indulges in the debauchery, aimlessness, and ambivalence that follow the college matriculation and subsequent dropout. But while this is a solid premise, these themes speak more to the inaction and indolence, hardly the necessary force required to comprise a game length of interactivity. As a result, the majority of the game feels like a wandering simulator, an upgrade over the walking variant if only because the atrophying city of Possum Springs is such a compelling character in itself. Indeed, after much dallying, I finally arrived at the central message of Night in the Woods. Ultimately, it is about the ways we confront death and dying, and how the stories we tell and retell about the long departed imbue this current moment with a precious, surreal quality. The game is, broadly, an open-world game. From the outset, the player is given little structure or instruction on what the objective is. There is no antagonist looming from on high, or an overwhelming, immediate threat to the existence of life as we know it. May is free to roam the town as she pleases, sometimes encountering scripted sequences depending on the day. This day cycle becomes the tether keeping the narrative tidy. Recurring characters will be up to different things on different days. Unlike most open-world games, the player is almost always given the option to participate in these random encounters. Because of this, the player is never forcefully drowned in character monologues or alien from unfortunate proximity crosstalk a la Witcher 3. The player will not miss anything crucial if they decide to pass on these, but it's a testament to the quality of Night in the Woods writing that I often found myself wanting to hear every conversational nugget that informs its world. The characters are varied and aloof. You'll probably want to hear what they say too, even if their names aren't so important. Most crucially, friends will be available to engage with in episodes, hangout sessions that further flesh out the pal you choose to spend time with. Unfortunately, on any given day, you'll have to select between 2 to 3 options without any opportunity to go back to the previous day, rendering the full narrative accessible only via additional playthroughs. Many games ranging from rhythm games to simplistic melee combat pepper the narrative beats of these episodes. While not always successful in justifying their inclusion into the narrative, they do often break up lengthy portions of dialogue and provide its gamey quality. Bracketed between episodes are May's increasingly abstract nightmares, wherein the player searches and activates the instrumental layers composing a haunting piece of music before waking up late in the morning to once again travel the length of the town, seeking the next available episode. This sort of gameplay loop is perfect to tell a singular and focused narrative, which is the kind of experience I was expecting. This is not that game, at least for the majority. See, Night in the Woods features a small cast of well-written characters whose arcs serve to complement May's personal story, simultaneously acting as foils and standalone personalities. Most of the game episodes fall outside of the story's alleged objectives, which are established in the first half hour, then pretty much forgotten until the finale. In the entirety of the meantime before then, the experience feels unfocused and random. We have slices of life cut from cake, pizza, jello mold, and quiche. It's hard to make a cohesive pie out of these disparate elements. To make this recipe work, a fifth slice of magical realism acts as a secret ingredient tying the narrative together. Without revealing the chunky, albeit vague, conclusion, the uniting and inciting theme behind Night in the Woods is death. White text on a black background established the idea immediately. May's grandfather passing away is apparently the impetus to telling her story at all. "This house is haunted," he says, drawing his last breath. True, creaks and shuffling from the attic can be heard every time May descends the stairs to begin her day. However, this plot thread grows cold almost as quickly as it's introduced, in much the same way an early scene's dismembered arm is prodded then forgotten until it's about ready to wrap up the game. In between, May is forced to reconcile her version of Possum Springs as she left it 2 years ago to head to college, to the Possum Springs of now, which is seemingly worse in every way she can imagine. Neighbors have died, local markets have shuttered and been replaced. Mom and Pop take on extra jobs for lower pay. The local mall appears largely abandoned and dated. May forgets essential life-altering facts about her friends. Dreams are divulged and deferred. memories are remembered than lamented. The hard times are taking a toll on May's friends. They're growing up fast, taking on responsibilities they're not adequately equipped to handle. No one is having an easy time with things. May's parents are never seen in occupying even adjacent rooms, hopefully owing to the fact that they have to work different shifts to make ends meet and not something worse. Crucially, they're disappointed in May's choice to drop out of college when they never had the means to afford the opportunity. Furthermore, May continually refuses to talk about it. These external factors are very real, too real, and May is not emotionally ready to acknowledge the death of the many things she holds dear. In the face of death, May gravitates to telling stories of ghosts and the long deceased. When stargazing, May's old astronomy teacher tells tales of mythical mortals meeting gruesome ends at the hands of gods, among other untimely fates. May's mom delivers news of an ancient family friend who finally passed at the age of 115. May creates a theory contingent on robbing graves to lure out a ghost she believes is stalking her around town. The annual Harfest play has been rewritten around 6 times since its inauguration, only now being about 20% historically accurate. Central to these events is a propensity to create and tell stories to make sense of death in the same way we tell stories to make sense of anything as senseless. The act builds a safe framework in which we can regain a sense of coherence in the face of despair and mortality. The dead are immortalized by tale, the tales passed down to generations, the tale elevated to myth, the myth elevated to legend. By telling ghost stories, the dead are more alive than the living. They're either more animated than the corporeal. Harfest's historical play may be further from the truth than ever in the pursuit of being, quote, spookier, but is it not more profound as well? Isn't telling a lie that tells the truth better than reducing their existence to a footnote on Possum Springs history? In a fitting existential confrontation ringing of Nietzsche and Lovecraft, May and company do eventually confront the myth made real behind the town by story's end. Childhood's end gives way to adulthood's beginning, a coming-of-age story punctuated by ghosts and nightmares, a spectral tale haunted by economic depression and mental illness. Much like Holden Caulfield seeing himself as a catcher in a field of rye, Night in the Woods similarly leaves the revelations vague and underwhelming. That was weird, both B and May not in agreement before band practice. But dude, what about Grandpa? What about your haunted house? What about Possum Springs? Ah well. Even at the end of everything, May still has her bandmates Greg, Angus, and B, and her bass guitar, even if she doesn't know how to play any of the songs. Final score? It's a whopper!